It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle.
Hi, you're watching Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. On the show today, we decode the test that concluded yesterday night, India time at Leeds. England took a 1-0 lead, but what caused this surrender from India after a dominant performance from Centurions? Commentator Karthik blames the Doberman-looking batting lineup. What did he mean? Or was it the dropped catches? England, meanwhile, seems to have added a key component alongside their aggressive and ever-intimidating Bazball approach. According to commentators, it has come with brains this time. What is the change, and have the key players in the ranks finally shirked off their sense of arrogance? And the Club World Cup is witnessing the resurgence of the Brazilian clubs, 4 making it to the last 16. What has contributed to their success, and how are they outdoing their richer European counterparts? But first, a look at the headlines on Sports 360. Starting with football and the Club World Cup, Chelsea made it to the last 16 after beating Tunisian champions Esperance 3-0. The game was decided by 2 goals in first half stoppage time by Tosin Adarabioyo and Liam Delap. Benfica made it to the round of 16 as well, beating Bayern Munich 1-0. The goal was scored in the 13th minute itself and stayed that way. Brazilian footballer Neymar has signed a new deal to stay on with his club Santos till the end of the year. The 33-year-old has struggled with injuries since his return. In fact, since leaving Saudi Pro League side Al Hilal, the Brazilian has only appeared in 12 matches. India's star javelin thrower Neeraj Chopra won yet another gold at the Ostrava Golden Spike, securing back-to-back titles after his exploits at the Paris Diamond League last week. His throw of 85.29 meters beat the rest. And staying with news from the Ostrava Golden Spike, American Chris Robinson overcame a wardrobe malfunction to win the 400 meters hurdles. The 24-year-old had to hold on to his shots, even inadvertently flashed till he crossed the hurdle and managed to stay fully clothed. And wrapping it up with tennis, women's world number 8 Iga Swiatek kicked off preparations for Wimbledon with a straight sets win over Victoria Azarenka in Bad Homburg. The 5-time Grand Slam champion registered a straight set win to reach the quarterfinals. A loss in the first test of a series that has a lot on the line will be hard. It'll be a tough one for this young Indian squad to swallow. And while the need to shake this off and regroup before Birmingham comes up is critical, you have to lay bare what's at the heart of this failure. A couple of things, of course, strike me. But the first has to be around what Indian commentator Dinesh Karthik said during the test. He was not referring to the ferocity that comes with a Doberman, but how it flatters to deceive. While we always say that the team that wins is the team that is able to take 20 wickets in a test, the reason England could breathe easy at Headingley on day 5 and got their chances was because of an Indian collapse, not once, but twice. India should take heart from the fact that they had 5 centuries in this test. That's gritty display. But truth is, India lost despite the 500s, and that will hurt. So what did Karthik mean by that statement of India's batting lineup resembling a Doberman? He explains.
Indian batting is like a Doberman dog. The head is good, the middle portion is okay, but there's no tail at all.
Well, that's what it felt like at Leeds, at least, that the lower order did no justice to the efforts put in by the rest of the batters at the top. It's what England captain Ben Stokes also said was a reason England fancied the win.
It was a good wicket for batting. The way we knocked over the Indian tail was a big reason why we were able to chase down the score.
And in this test, they had 2 such collapses, 7 for 41 in the first innings and 6 for 31 in the second. So was that it? Not just the bowling, but the batting department too. Can we say that in a test that India had 5 centuries in? No team has lost scoring that much. So what was it? I'll take this further and talk about intent and intensity. You think of India in England in recent years and that famous huddle where Virat Kohli is passionately commanding his troops to give England hell, rain terror on the opposition. That's what comes to mind first. That every ball mattered, every shot had to be stopped. Was that energy missing here? England former captain and commentator Nasser Hussain certainly believes so.
You've got to be very careful in the first test match, the people he's taken over from Kohli and then Rohit Sharma. I thought he didn't quite have that on-field aura as the names I mentioned there. I thought he followed the ball a lot. I thought he was reactive as opposed to proactive.
Nasser Hussain speaking about Shubman Gill, the captain there, and how he saw a committee of captains on the field rather than one player in charge of the proceedings. Now that is bound to happen. Gill is a young captain and maybe that sharp edge was absent, something that only comes with experience, naturally so. But what about the intensity? Something young Yashasvi Jaiswal may have to ask himself. Fabulous 100 in that first innings, nothing can take that away from him, showing everyone what he's capable of and in adverse conditions. But what followed that was just too painful to watch. One dropped catch after another, and while it's all part of the game and must be shaken off, it just did not get any better. And to make it worse, fans launched into him when visuals of Jaiswal dancing with English fans on the ropes went viral. This after he dropped Ben Duckett on day 5. Now, while there are positives to take forward from this loss, India also has many questions they need to answer. Indian management's vision board was clear here. Bring in the youth and start a new era. But what comes with every transition is a fair share of challenges and hurdles. Experience matters. And while the youth can punch above their weight and go for guts and glory, here's the truth. That guts come easy. Glory, that takes a while and takes much more than hundreds and fifers. Quite the England turnaround that we saw in Leeds, despite not having the squad and the team that they really wanted, despite injury concerns. England has managed a reset, at least so far. A reset from the tag of just being too cavalier and arrogant, to putting their heads down and finally delivering. Their coach, Brendan McCullum, who introduced Bazball to the world, had come under heavy fire. England was losing, but more importantly, they were getting more conceited than contemplative. No wonder McCullum had to publicly come out and make a statement. He did this ahead of the series against West Indies, which was just before this one against India, saying there was a clear message given out in the dressing room for everyone involved in this squad. That they had to think before they spoke. Basically not trying to be smarty pants, especially when the results column was laughing right back at them. Many reactions coming in after the win over India and Leeds, with Michael Vaughan hitting the nail on the head. He's basically saying the earlier English side would only talk and not think. Now picture the Hulk. That is what he likens England men's cricket team of the Bazball times to. That there would be just one solution no matter the situation. But now picture a thinking Hulk. That's what Vaughan says England displayed in the first test against India. That not everything needed to be addressed with a singular objective, and they needed to patiently keep doing the job without the bells and whistles, even if the players did not have the experience or the pedigree attached to their name. Like how Bryden Cast was, lethal on the day. And the biggest example of this England turnaround and U-turn was Ben Duckett. The same Ben Duckett who had a responsibility to shoulder as an opener, but who has in the recent past come under severe criticism. The same Duckett who made the most inappropriate and pompous comments primarily against India. That Ben Duckett put his head down and, with some thanks to Jaiswal in the field, steered his team through. And that's the biggest lesson England will take from Leeds onward, that they decided to walk the walk instead of talking it. Josh Tongue resonated quiet confidence in that post-Day 4 press conference when he said there was no talk of a draw.
Just go for the win. That's the clear message in the changing room. We'll try and be as positive as we can in that first session, then see where we are at lunch, then we'll take things from there.
That's what he said when asked if a draw would be a good result in this test. That's the message. It was to go for the win. And the second part of that quote that we just showed you tells you how England is trying to keep that aggression alive but not get blinded by it, like we've seen happen over the last many months across formats for them. And that's what this U-turn by England shows. It's a threatening sign of what India is about to encounter in the weeks coming up, starting with Birmingham. Brazil has witnessed much heartbreak over the last year. The floods that ravaged Rio last year and displaced lakhs of people is a tragedy the country endured. And alongside that, in sport, the fall from grace of their national football team. Decline in their performances, star players leaving, corruption and instability in the management. The once glorious football side hanging by the thread. But none of that is reflecting on the Club World Cup, at least, with Brazil's clubs making it to the next round of the tournament. The round of 16, staying unbeaten so far. Brazil clubs are outshining the far more glamorous and rich European football clubs on the world stage. So what's gone right? How is Brazil getting its act together in a tournament that has been badly organized, where the cruel weather conditions have forced even the best to succumb? The 4 clubs through to the round of 16 and topping their groups have been Flamengo, Botafogo, Palmeiras and Fluminense. And in a tournament where historically Brazil has had very little success, rare to be apt. The last time a Brazilian club actually tasted victory, went as far as win the whole thing, was back in 2012. It's a tournament that the Europeans have clearly dominated for many years, starting from, of course, Manchester City towards the end, Real Madrid, Chelsea, Bayern Munich, the English and Spanish clubs primarily, with, of course, one German club somewhere in between Bayern. This is, of course, the next 4 years prior to that. Again, Real Madrid ruling the roost there, so too Barcelona, Bayern Munich coming in there, and, of course, Corinthians. 2012 is when they won and under Tite. In fact, Corinthians won this twice. The first was the inaugural edition. That's way back in 2000. The only other Brazilian club to win this was again way back in 2006. Internacional went all the way. So what's worked? How did Brazil clubs dominate this time? Easy fixtures? Not really. Palmeiras had teams like Porto and Inter Miami, topped the group after holding Porto and Inter to gritty draws. Flamengo beat Chelsea. Botafogo beat PSG. PSG boss Luis Enrique even grudgingly admitted no one defended better against them than Botafogo this season. Fluminense held Borussia Dortmund to a draw. These results are compelling. In fact, there has been some tart humor with Brazil showing European clubs how it's done. But the reason why we're talking about this and the rarity of it is all because European clubs, with the sheer weight of the monies and infrastructure, left Brazilian football on the wayside. The fall of the Brazilian national football system over the last few years has been well documented. So how this resurgence here? Is it that the European teams have been too tired and fatigued? Palmeiras manager vehemently quashes that argument.
When we go to the Mundial, we are also at the end of the season. Porto has 50 games, Palmeiras has 36 already. And when we go to play in a Mundial, we'll have more than 70 games. These are excuses.
So then what? One is the weather. Brazilian players and clubs are more used to playing in roasty weather conditions with the sun beating down on them than Europeans do. 2, and this is important, motivation. There's a sense that Europeans are not in it, not too keen, and the conditions and scheduling has obviously helped this feeling along more. That's not the case with these Brazilian clubs. They are hungry and they want to prove a point. And 3, this is key, the improvement in the club system in Brazil. A number of the big clubs like Palmeiras have become more professional in their outlook. In 2021, Brazil government passed a law that rejigged club ownership, increasing accountability and getting a more solid system in place at the grassroots level. And that's clearly working. And to top it all, the presence of youngsters with the guidance of foreign coaches, something we did not see for quite some time in these parts, all combining perfectly to make Brazil look threatening all over again and making us ask ourselves with nervous anticipation, is Samba going to rise again? Time for Last Serve. We end with pictures from Chitral in Pakistan, where tourists and locals got together to attend the Shandur Polo Festival. This one dates way back to 1936. It's the oldest. What takes the cake is the logistics of it all, situated on top of a mountain in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province at 3,700 meters, the highest polo ground in the world. That wraps it up here on First Sports. I'll of course see you again tomorrow. Till then, do take care. Bye-bye.